In this session, I want to share a little bit of history of the movement of fresh expressions. And we're going to talk about reaching new people in new places and in new ways. It came out of the Church of England. And so a group of Anglicans and British Methodists got together, and they noticed in the early 2000s that the church was kind of in massive decline. In huge cathedrals with historic spaces of faith, people would line out the door to pay a ticket to go inside these cathedrals and take selfies that they can send to their friends and say, look, I'm standing in this historic museum-like space. But then on Sundays, when people gathered for worship, those same cavernous houses of historical worship were empty. But this is the situation, right? And in the United Kingdom, our friends from across the pond, they're really from our future. So they're about 10 to 20 years ahead of us in the decline of the church, in the post-Christendom realities that we're starting to see come to our own shores in the United States, pluralism and secularization and all those realities. But they're also now decades ahead of us in this missional church movement. They also noticed these new little communities were kind of springing up all over the place. That they were happening in taverns and parks and online spaces. And people were gathering as Christians and sharing faith, but they were just doing it outside the confines of the institutional and inherited church. And so in 2004, Bishop Graham Cray and others, a working party got together and they created a church report called the Mission-Shaped Church Report. And they said there's been a shift from a neighborhood world and where we based ourselves regionally and through geography. We knew our neighbors, but that's not really where we find ourselves anywhere. In a network society, people use technology to connect across geographies around common interests, practice, hobbies, where the church used to be a central place for that kind of relationship building. Now that shifted out into communal spaces, what another sociologist, Ray Oldenburg, calls the third place. So the first place is your home space, second place being your workspace, third place being those neutral kind of communal places where people gather for hobbies and those kind of things. In that report, they made the observation that attractional forms of church and attractional forms of church planting only were not enough for this new scenario. We were going to need to do inherited church well, attractional church well, but also have what they called at that time a mixed economy of church, where we would have traditional forms of church living alongside these emerging and missional forms of church. And over time, as those churches kind of live together in a symbiotic kind of relationship, they really feed each other and give life to each other. And so now we've brought that thinking over to the United States, and I've coined the term a blended ecology, which I'm going to get into in the next session. But what these new little emerging forms of church do, taking place essentially anywhere that human beings can gather together, they're reaching new people in new places and in new ways. That group that no matter how good we do the Sunday morning worship experience, they're just not going to come. Connecting with those people who maybe church is not even on their radar, but a friend invites them and says, hey man, we're doing this tattoo parlor church. You know, we go in and we have a spiritual conversation. People get tattoos. It's pretty cool. You should come check it out. Come join us. Or, hey, you know, we take our dogs to the dog park. We have a couple minutes of prayer and somebody gives kind of a Jesus story. We talk about that. Our dogs run around and play. We bring our kids. It's really fun. Or it could be happening around a dinner church where we just get together for a communal meal. We kind of do church like Jesus did it. We have a supper, some prayer, a Jesus story. People have conversations and they're having church in that way. And by doing that, we're connecting with people that are open spiritually, hungering for faith, maybe not comfortable walking fully into a church. That's a big barrier to cross. It's a big kind of bridge for people that don't know anything about that world. And so we're kind of forming church with them around things they are comfortable with in a conversational way, and places where they're normal, that they normally frequent, places where they would go all throughout the week, their work, their school, their play places, the bar, wherever that is. We go there and we share faith with people. And so this movement of Church in the Wild helps reach those people, bring church where they live, spreads it out through a 7-day work week, where people can come to faith, grow in their faith, and learn to share their faith. And that larger reality of this happening all over a whole area or region is what we will call a blended ecology of church, which I'm excited to share about with you next.